Hey, greetings everybody. Gleekon here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. Stay a while and listen to this one. It's called The Birth of Taala, or Taala? Taala. Let's say Taala. Taala. So, Taala is the attempt of Gnarlgon, something like that, and his little treant people, the Gnarled, and his semi-mentally enslaved minions, the Batani, to recreate a spore mound en route to making the Evergrowth rule life on Draenor once more. So let's find out how this goes. The Apexis ignored the stirrings in Talador at first, believing them to be part of the war between the Primals and the Breakers, yet the forest at the edge of Arak soon grew thicker. Vines crept toward the spire, planting seeds that sprouted into hundreds of new trees with astonishing speed. As the wilds encroached on the spire, members of the Anhar and the Skalax orders investigated Talador. And remember, Anhar and Skalax, I believe, are the holy light casters and the shadow dark casters, respectively, of the Apexis. Very few of these scouts ever returned. Those who did reported horrifying news. The trees themselves had come alive, and thousands of Batani and Geenosaur were girding themselves for battle. Yet the most troubling discovery was the monstrous creature forming in the center of Talador. Arakoa scouts reported that it was already larger than a Geenosaur. From what they had gleaned of the Evergrowth, the Apexis feared that this emergent being could be one of the giants that had shaped the infant world. If such a creature awoke, it would annihilate the Arakoa and bring devastation to the rest of Draenor. The Anhari and the Skalaxi leaders had no choice but to act. Their race's survival depended on it. The two orders mobilized the Apexis and hastily formed an invasion force. The Anhari priests and Skalaxi sorcerers formed the bulk of the Arakoa military. They stormed through the skies over Talador. Guided by the Anhari and the Skalaxi leaders, the Arakoa ignored the primals they came across and focused on destroying the monstrosity forming deep in the forest. I wonder how the plants would be able to fight this airborne force. The Apexis army descended into Talador's murky depths to find Taala, and brutal fighting engulfed the Arakoa and the primals. The Anhari priests carved through the wilds with blades of enchanted flame, and the Skalaxi sorcerers enfeebled their enemies with curses. Yet despite the powers at their command, the Arakoa could not break the primals. Gnarlgar entered a trance that allowed the treant to touch the minds of the primals and coordinate their movements, so he's mini-hive-minding it. Every vine and root moved against the Apexis. The primals worked in perfect unity, routing the Arakoa and driving them back to the skies. The defeat shocked the Anhar and the Skalax orders. Nearly half of their forces had fallen in battle. The Arakoa scrambled for a means to defeat the primals. It was the Anhar order that proposed a solution. Its priests had devised an ingenious new weapon which they called the Breath of Rukmar. I believe the Breath of Rukmar is still a thing, or at least it is in some sort of Draenor expansion. Sounds super familiar. This mechanism would channel the energies of the sun and allow the Arakoa to wield incredibly destructive powers. The Anhari crafters began building this device atop the spire's highest point. So basically like a giant massive flamethrower. Meanwhile, Gnarlgar quickened Tala's maturation. The treant knew the time had come to attack the Arakoa before they could regroup and strengthen their defenses. Gnarlgar ordered more Batani to sacrifice themselves, and it shunted their spirits into the spore mound's veins. Finally, Taala stirred. Giant fronds unfurled from around it, and the spore mound rose up to its full height, towering over the forest canopy. The monstrous thorn-skinned creature took its first step, and the forest trembled with awe. Gnarlgar entered a trance once again, reaching out its mind to Taala and the other primals. At the treant's command, they marched toward the spire. So, war, again. It's crazy how the Warcraft universe is so centered around this concept of war. Mind-blowing. We have a spore mound. It's a baby one, but it's still a spore mound. It's being driven by this treant boss, and it's ready to roll out. Half the forces of the Apexis are gone, and I guess we're going to see next can they get this flamethrower going, the Breath of Rookmar, before it's all for naught? And regardless of what happens, we do know two things. One, the Taala does not live in the long run. Neither do the spore. Like, no spore mound is going to come at any point. Two, we know the Apexis are go extinct. So, long run, this is going to end badly for both, which will be not too shabby for the rest of Draenor. Oh, that's a pretty cool picture. So this is called the Botani bringing a new spore mound to life. The new spore mound being Taala, and these people in the foreground being the Botani. They're pretty cool. I do like them as a race, and I think it's a little bit of a shame that you just don't see that much. Maybe they kind of reskinned them a little bit for some of the Drust, but these are pretty cool. And there's a lot of similarities between this thing and Grand. I wonder what the deal is with that. Same artist, maybe. Either way, it's pretty cool artwork. That thing is pretty sick looking. All right, guys, another episode in Pipes 5x5. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Lore of Warcraft.